So I understand, Simon, that you have written a book. So how long did that take to write?
The Strategy Sprints book took me 6 months to write it down and 21 years to create because it's in the field with teams that have to solve the go-to-market problem. How do we enter a market? How do we crush it in the market? And how do we stay in the market? So we were immersed in those topics. Sometimes we would come out the other side winning.
Hey, good people, we are talking to Simon Severino today. He's got 21 years of experience in the field. He's the author of Strategy Sprints and he trains people, he coaches them on how to grow
Most of
their
the times
businesses.
we would just come out the other side and have to try the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so some things would work and I would save them, like literally as a spreadsheet, as a doc on my computer. And so
Yeah.
21 years later, there was enough saved for a full book.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, I imagine you would recommend other people would do that. But did you always know you were going to write a book?
It was never on the cards. I'm a practitioner.
Yeah.
I'm not an academic. I'm a practitioner. I'm in the trenches, in the arena. I'm in the pipelines of people and in their sales calls. So I receive 5, 6 sales calls a day. I review them. I give them feedback. I look at their pipeline, multiple pipelines per day, and emails and sales materials, and I give feedback. This is where I live. So I
Yeah.
would never have thought that I ever publish anything. But then it was the pandemic, and I had time to sit down and to distill all these moments in the arena. And so I said, wait a moment, people need this. And
Mm.
not everybody can afford a sprint coach, but everybody can afford $20. So let's write this down so that people who need it get the practical steps on how to run a business in the digital age. It's hard enough without blueprints, so let's give them the
Yeah.
blueprints.
Oh yeah, that's I'm very much with you there. So what kind of people need what you've written about specifically? Because obviously there's solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that have a team around them. Micro businesses, there might be four or five people, then you start a small business, medium-sized business. Who do you think would benefit the most from reading your book?
This book is for business owners that
Mm,
have small teams and they run a digital business. They have to sell via Zoom or Teams, and they live in a time where the old world of marketing and the old world of sales doesn't work anymore because people are fed up with being sold something. They want actually solutions to problems and they want somebody that they can trust. And so how do you come to your buyer with a buyer centric approach, with a service approach, and how can you become the best consultant, the best advisor, the best business partner for them? So
mm.
people who have to solve that in the marketing, in the sales, in operations, and then also in hiring the right salespeople, these are the people that I wrote the book for.
Yeah, I get that. And so would you be focusing primarily on B2B or B2C or both?
B2B, because it's for high ticket
Mm,
sales. So every sales that's above 10K a month or 10K a piece for those people, because it's all around really understanding the buyer and being buyer centric. When for low ticket sales funnels are very different. Um, you don't have the time to go deep into the buyer because you have to sell 1,000 of them today.
mm,
So you're trying to scale quickly. Whereas in the high ticket space, you just need 3 to 5 clients per month. So you really take time to understand them. You go deep, and you can take the time to actually care about their journey, the buyer's journey from the beginning, from attention to awareness to interest to engagement to closing, and also retaining, cross-selling, upselling.
Yeah. So have you received any pushback with the environment that we're in now with influencers? Because, you have some companies that think that influencers are the way to go because people don't like being sold to. Whereas if you just had an influencer that was saying, hey, I did this thing and it was great, that would work. Do you think influencers would be a fit for the high ticket items, or have you seen them fail?
Generally, people like to buy from people like them.
Mm,
So if you say my product is great, that is not as strong as if somebody who is like the buyer says, I'm using it and this is what it's doing for me. That's much stronger. Now, in order to be credible, um, the more real, the better. So the less interest, the better. So that's the weak side. If you see that that person is an actor, it's not the same credibility, right? But
mm,
if you know that this person is like me, and what they're describing, the reason why they use the product, and what the product is solving for them, and even what their skepticism was at the beginning speaks to you, that is actually the best framing that you can have for a product, because people buy from people like them.
yeah, that makes sense. So when you're dealing with, let's say an entrepreneur or a solopreneur that does small ticket items and they're usually doing a lot of their own sales, what would you advise to someone who doesn't want to come off as an actor, but they're not necessarily sales minded? They're not naturally a salesperson, because often entrepreneurs are the idea people. They want to do the delivery part, right? But you end up having to do the selling as well. You don't always have a really hyperactive business partner to go out and do all of the face stuff. So how would you advise somebody not to come off as an actor that was pretending when they're trying to do the sales part of their role?
It can be a superpower not to be a salesperson,
Oh.
because people don't want to talk to salespeople. They want to talk to somebody who has intimacy with their world and with their problem. So intimacy trumps credibility, actually, also in scientific studies. Intimacy is the most important thing, and that means, are you immersed into the problem, into the field, into their world? That trumps everything else. So um, if if you want to compare products, the first thing that you want to do is not talking to a salesperson. The first thing that you want to do is read some reviews. Especially the younger the people, the more they just want to read reviews on their phone, watch a video about it on their phone, then go to their computer, maybe compare some reviews, read some articles about that, experience-based articles about that. And then the next step, now you want to talk to somebody, but ideally it's not a salesperson, it's more somebody who is immersed in it, a an expert, a technician, somebody who understands the problem. And then the last person you want to talk to is a salesperson, because you expect that they're going to push something onto you, and that they are also very good at manipulating if they want,
Mm.
because it's true.
So yeah, so when you're dealing with a larger organization, then it's true. When I'm buying things, I'm much more comfortable with the subject matter expert who just wants to impart knowledge and understand where I am than I am with the person that has a target to fulfill.
Exactly. And when we smell that they have a target, and
Yeah.
that's counterproductive. So we rather talk to the engineer, to the product guy, to
Mm.
somebody who is more neutral. They are not that hungry to close a deal. They
Mm.
they don't see dollar symbols when they see me. So I can talk to them and I can find out things and I can trust them. So that's
Yeah.
actually the good part of not being a salesperson. And most people that I coach are not salespeople. They are just normal people. They're passionate about something. They've built a solution for something. And now they have 5 people, 10 people, and are trying to scale that across their country or adjacent countries.
Mm.
And many of them, they want to enter the American market, like because we solved that problem. We're coming from somewhere else. We are from Europe, and we entered the American market. So many say, "How do you do that, Simon? I don't know how to enter the American market. I don't understand the American market." And so many of those are not salespeople, and they are not even natives in the market that they want to win at.
Yeah, no, I get that. And brilliant point there with the scaling, because here on the Sales Ops Effect, we talk about sales operations in SMEs, as you know. So when people are trying to scale, when businesses are trying to scale, our small businesses, the 5 or 10 businesses, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, where do you where do you see sales ops fitting into that? How does that help scale from what you've seen, what you've witnessed, and at what point should people start to think more deeply about sales operations?
From a very practical standpoint, let's start with a solopreneur. You have an idea, you build something, it starts to get traction, 10 people buy it. Now you go, oh, I'm onto something, let's double the price. And then now you're really onto something. People are still buying it, you're delivering. And now you feel like, I'm the bottleneck. I can either deliver or take on 3 new clients. If I take on 3 new clients, I don't have a weekend. Maybe I just take on one of those. Now you know you are the bottleneck. And so this is where you start hiring. And now uh, I think best bang for the buck, you buy the book Strategy Sprints. Chapter 12 and chapter 13 are the hiring chapters.
Okay.
Hiring can cost you so much time and nerves and can give you so much headache. It can be a full-time job and a terrible full-time job. So you just do what's in chapter 12. That's the checklist on which sales role to hire first, how you identify what to hire first. Let's say you go for an appointment setter because you want to still close the deals. So you want to something to fill your calendar. And now you wake up in the morning, you have the calendar full of appointments, and you talk to them, you close them. Typically, this is the next step. So, okay, let's hire some appointment setters. So you will create a job description on LinkedIn, hiring salesperson. Now, the first question, should you pay fully commission, zero commission, or a
Mm,
hybrid? There is no perfect way. I recommend full commission for appointment setters at the very beginning for their very first month. And then we have a very specific framework how you get them going. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Phase 1, ICP, anti-ICP, they go through a lead list and they show you that they can understand your ideal client and the opposite. So they sort through the list. That's their first week. Second week, they call people, they start conversations. And so I walk them through the stages. Third week, warm leads, people who already downloaded something from your website. And then week 5, 6, hot leads, people who are actually inquiring to work for you,
yeah.
to work with you, right? And so this is the gradual then onboarding. And all of these things can happen quite smoothly, like we just discussed, but probably without those checklists and those processes, it will be very complicated and take you a ton of hours. And for each of those steps in the chapter, there is the time-saving option. For example, let's say you want to find 3 great appointment setters. You have to probably scan 100, talk to 40, and then you will pick the top 3. Of
Mm.
those top 3, 2 will jump off immediately in week 1 if you don't have solid processes, because they can smell if they come into a well-organized, well-oiled sales machine, then they will be happy. And most teams on the planet are not that. So they come in and they go, oh my God, I have to build my own processes here. I have to reinvent the wheel here. Bye-bye.
I am glad you said that, because I think people find processes and systems really boring when you talk about the importance of them, but it's like you don't miss the water until the well runs dry. It's when you don't have a process and people feel like they have to create their own world in order to just do their work. It's like going to a restaurant and then being told to get in the kitchen,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, beginners find them boring,
Mm,
but people who have experience in the field, if you are running a business for 10 years and if you have hired 3 people, now you love processes, you love systems.
when they're in place. But there are people, I've met people who have they've been running their businesses by a lot of energy, essentially, and just remembering things here or there and just managing to pick things up and juggling. And it's just some people burn out after 2 years of that, and some people it takes 10 or 15. So, what would you say to someone who finds the idea of actually setting up processes to understand how their business runs rather daunting because it's all in their head. So they just know how to do it. They need help, but in order to get help, they need to be able to tell the person what to do with an actual process, not with a you press the button over there and you do that thingy and then you twist this and then don't do that until this happens. People find the idea of writing everything that they know down daunting. So how would you speak to that?
So this is where most people fail because you
Mm,
start writing in them and then it's boring and then it's overwhelming and then you stop. And then at some point you burn out.
mm,
So that's why when I teach the strategy sprints coaches, it takes me 60 days to really show them how to tackle this. It's important to do it in the right order, in the right way. It must be very simple. We call it the cookbook.
mhm,
You start with the money making processes. So the first mistake that people do is they start with something that's not around payment. It's not really in the heat of the money flow. You have to start, you have to follow the money. So the first process to write down and to automate, standardize is the payment process. The next one is what happens immediately before the payment, closing. So the closing script, which is not really a script, it's more like talking points. But those talking points, they need to be nailed, A/B tested. And when they work, now they need to be written down. And we have an AI that creates 8 points of that and
mm.
scores you real time. So like you are Iron Man, you have Jarvis in front of you that's helping you saying, hey,
Yeah.
you're saying the price too early. Oh, you didn't use the right word for that. You positioned this in the wrong way. Oh, you're talking too much. So that's the process. You have to start with payments, then the closing, then what happens before the closing, and then you move forward up to marketing. And the last bit is then also hiring and the leadership processes. If you don't do it in that order, you will lose the founder, the entrepreneur, because they will go, oh my God, this is I don't have time for this.
That makes sense. So, I'm a very big believer that you end up having to do your own sales ops to some degree, which is at the bare minimum, organizing what your processes are at the very beginning. So the process that you work through, the cookbook, starting from, how'd you get the money? That makes complete sense. I totally, totally agree. Um, when it comes to onboarding salespeople, there's this when you tell people that it takes a while for some salespeople to ramp up, they find that really shocking because it's just like, well, it can't be that difficult to just pick up the phone. And there's this idea that a seller can just sell anything, and they don't actually need to know certain things about the product or service that they're selling. They should just be able to up and go. So have you found in your career, have you found that opinion that there's no ramp up needed? Have you found that opinion to have lessened, as in, are more people open to hearing that it takes a little while for a salesperson to become fully, fully a salesperson in your company?
I mean, we are strategy sprints. We think you can do it pretty quickly,
Mm,
but we experience a lot that sometimes it takes much more training than we think.
mm.
Because in theory, it's easy, right? Start conversations and get them on the calendar. What's the problem? But then the problems arise. And so you have to train on, okay, I got them on the phone. No, it's even before, right? I'm calling them, but it's not the right number. So there are
Mm.
so many tiny problems to solve. This is why we have all these checklists and blueprints. So what if the number is broken? How do you find the right number? There are so many of these tiny problems to solve. And then you have solved all these, let's say, lead quality problems. Now, the next problem is how to get past gatekeepers. If you're selling to enterprises, there are a lot of gatekeepers. Their job is to keep you away. So how do you get past that? You have to train that. Now, you've got past, you got the CEO on the line, you have 10 minutes. Do you have a version of your talking points that's 10 minutes? Because of those 10 minutes, you will probably be cut in half. Can you do it in 5 minutes? And if you just have 2 minutes because their board is coming in, do you have that version too? So we have to train that. And then we have the 2 minutes version. And now he has to align with all the relevant stakeholders and shareholders. Do you have a process for that on how to align them? Because B2B sales is much more about consultancy. It's really aligning the top team. That is actually the sales work. It's not really selling a product. It's more aligning on where they want to go and how to get there. And if you get that right, they will take the product with it. But if you don't get it right, even the right product, you won't sell it.
That makes complete sense, yes. And then also, the tiny little things that you're talking about, one thing that I've come across a lot recently, unfortunately, is it would be interesting to know your opinion on this. People who are in the sales team and call themselves salespeople, but they really don't like doing any sales or doing the activity that's involved in selling, as in picking up the phone, calling people, chasing people up. They don't seem to be naturally inclined to do any of those things. And me, I'm a very literal thinker, so I'm just like, why would you try to be in a position where you don't want to do what the tasks are for that position? You can't possibly be enjoying your day, but obviously the money, right? But again, if people manage to sell businesses well enough, this is what I've just seen anyway.
Every week I am in teams where I think, why are they not being fired right now in front of me?
Thank you. Okay.
And then I look at leadership and I realize that we have a leadership gap,
Yes.
huge sales leadership problem across all industries, across all countries, starting in the US.
Okay.
And you look at how they report and how they structure their meetings. And this is, by the way, my second book, my next book that I'm writing right now is all about the sales meetings, the role of how to structure those meetings, and specifically 2 meetings, the pipeline meeting and the deal review meeting. Because what I'm seeing is over years of not leading. And so to me, it starts with sales leadership. Because if you allow a culture to become such a lukewarm culture, where people don't pick up the phone, they don't do the follow-up, they don't create opportunities every week. If you allow that, well, now you're shaping culture. And that will be so hard to change. So we have to start earlier. How does the sales team begin the week, and how do they experience the week, and how do they end the week? We have to start there and reshape culture. And you shape culture by shaping structure. And so we install a pipeline meeting and I say, guys, can I run your pipeline meeting? And they go, oh, sure. I don't have time for it. Do it. So I start running their pipeline meeting. Monday morning, pipeline meeting. And we have a very specific structure, which the goal of the pipeline meeting is to install a culture of opportunity creation.
Yes.
So the first question is, which opportunities did I create this week? And now one round, everyone. And then some people say, I'm not even in sales. And I say, okay, but which opportunities did you create this week? I'm not in sales. Yeah, but which opportunities did you observe this week? And which one did you tell the sales team? Oh, I can do that. Yeah, you can do that. Now you create a culture of opportunity creation. And this is the job of a meeting. It's to create culture. The last part is sales manager saying a couple of things. This is the pipeline number. It's this dollar number. It's 10% above or below target. And this is the sales pipeline health status. It's either yellow, green, or red based on conversion rates. And there is just one number, one color. And then we pick two of the opportunities that were mentioned to go into the Thursday or Friday meeting, which is the deal review meeting. We will take 20 minutes and double click into that opportunity. Oh, you have that opportunity? Come on, let's rehearse. What's your plan? How do we prepare? Do they know somebody that could do that? And what if they say this? And so now we rehearse it. And that's the cool part. This is where energy is super high. And usually during such a sales rehearsal, people want to stop the meeting earlier and go, Simon, I'm so pumped. I want to get out there and sell this
Yeah.
thing. Can I
Yeah.
go? And then we say, let go, 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 go.
Yeah. No, I'm a very big believer in that. And I found it really, really amazing just how many leaders don't know about a pipeline, sales leaders specifically. And it's quite scary because just like how do these businesses manage to stay here? And it's, brute force, not through smarts or strategy or processing. It's just brute force. And maybe people had a lot of money to burn, throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticked. But it's rough out there.
3/4 of those will not be around in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the reason why the failure rates are so high, is because even if you're following another business that you've seen, and it's just like, you just keep gunning for it, just keep putting energy at it, no processes, no nothing to steer you in the right direction or keep you on track, and then people are just going in with hope. And I'm a firm believer that hope is used to manipulate, because if you have other things to do and people tell you to rely on hope, it means you'll do
Not a
nothing.
strategy.
Is not a strategy. Exactly. Exactly. Ah, it has been brilliant to have you today. Is there anything in particular that you think my audience would benefit from knowing, SMEs, particularly sales ops specialists, that would help them?
Yes, please use the blueprints.
Mm,
So where can you get this? We talked about checklists and blueprints.
yeah.
Where can people get that? You can get them for free on strategiesprints.com.
Mhm.
Many of those are just open source. Use them, make your life easier. Life is tough enough. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can go to Amazon, buy the book Strategy Sprints. You will find literally the checklists that we use with our clients. And if you want to even talk to us and see if we can help you have your meetings better and hire your people and onboard your salespeople better and increase win rates, you go to strategysprints.com, you land on our calendar, and then we can talk.
That is great. Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you today. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please look at the list of other episodes. I'm sure there's another one that can help you. See you next time.